Connor's Seeing Eye Dog vlog. This is my Seeing Eye Dog, Joplin. She is a cross between a golden retriever and a yellow lab, and she and I are chilling right now, and I decided to make an episode. The first part of this episode, I just wanted to give a disclaimer to any of my listeners or viewers who may be deaf, hard of hearing, or someone who would like to use captions or transcripts. I always put that I'm happy to do a transcript if someone would like as a request. My editor tries to fix the YouTube subtitles to the best of her ability, but basically I'm visually impaired and my editor and I both don't have time to perfect doing captions. And so I apologize if anyone would like to volunteer to do captions for the videos. Feel free to email me, blindinspirationcast@gmail.com. Other than that, I do apologize. Yes, we're sorry. That I don't have official captions on my videos. And please do ask if you have trouble hearing or understanding me in my episodes. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the Halloween episode that I did. It's Joplin's first holidays with me this year. I got her in May, so she's been guiding me through the holidays. And she's been doing pretty well. We get to know each other better each day, and I'm very happy to have her and very grateful to the Seeing Eye. The Seeing Eye runs solely on donation. I'm not being paid to do these videos or anything, but if you would like to donate, there's a link to the Seeing Eye in the description, as well as a link to my channel. You can see previous episodes and future episodes if you subscribe. So please subscribe, like these videos. You can catch me on Twitter @InspirationCast, or like I said, you can always email blindinspirationcast or comment here if you have questions or requests. So this episode is going to feature Joplin and I in transit. So this episode is going to talk about trains. Joplin has been with me so far on, yes baby, hi, yeah. She's been with me so far on trains, planes, automobiles, and it's worked out really well. She does not like tucking into small spaces, but she'll do it. And I have a fairly small dog for a guide dog because I'm not a very big person. And so she's only 45 pounds. So some people have, she's just flopped onto her back and now I am rubbing her tummy. So some people have, you know, the 90-pound German Shepherds and things like that. And they're a little harder to tuck under those plain seats. She definitely fits, but she makes it known that she's not a fan. She likes to see how far her 45 pounds can stretch out no matter where she is. So she behaves well in restaurants. She just likes to vacuum the floor under the table for them. And same thing goes for any kind of transportation. She likes to find any kind of Labba Hoover treats that are lovely on the floor. But she normally listens to a correction from me. You're going to see a couple clips that I took on an Amtrak train where I was going from Virginia up north to Washington, D.C. So if you guys have any questions regarding the Amtrak app, again, I'm not being paid by Amtrak, and I apologize if I'm not supposed to mention their names, but I feel like it's good to show real-life experiences. So, as far as the Seeing Eye Dog, in one of the clips that I'll show you, the dog is supposed to be under your seat. A lot of times they'll put us in what's called the handicap section of the train, and that's where they can put people in motorized wheelchairs or with other equipment. So there is a huge amount of space in front of you, but still you want to have control of your dog, especially a guide dog. When you're visually impaired, you can't see. And so you want to make sure you know where your dog is at all times. So I just tuck her rear end under the seat, and my feet are on either side of her, or on the side of her in some way, and she just kind of curls up and should be laying down, not standing up, not moving around. I use her to guide me to the restrooms in the train, as well as the dining car. She was really good. She gets curious about the people who sit next to us, but normally they're really good, and I just explain to them that she's working, and you don't need to give her food or any kind of undue attention. A lot of people think that, oh, we're sitting on a train for 6 hours, so the dog can just, chill, or maybe I'll take her harness off and she can just relax. And that's not the case. If you're in public, if you're on a train or plane, your dog, unfortunately, doesn't really get a break. You are responsible for their training, and they are legally responsible to be service dogs in working mode. You do not want to have a situation where you are the person with the dog who's running around the train car. Especially as a guide dog and as a representative of the seeing eye, Joplin and I would never do anything like that. Is it a long ride for them? Yes, absolutely. Are there long plane rides for them? Yes, absolutely. And what you do in those scenarios is, before you get on the train, you give them very limited food and water. And that sounds cruel, but I promise they will survive. It just keeps them from having to go potty while you're waiting on a train for a really long time. Once the train stops, sometimes there are stops that are longer than others, and you can ask the train workers if you have time to get off and give your dog a park break or a potty break. And basically, you would hop off the train and make sure your dog does its business. It's another one of the reasons why the Seeing Eye trains dogs to go to the bathroom on concrete and not just grass, because that way, if you're in a parking lot or on a train station, your dog can go potty on a concrete surface, and you're not searching around for the one patch of grass in all of that particular area. We had a layover in particular. Rigor mortis is setting in. She is stuck one of her legs out, just completely rigid. Yes. Rigor mortis has set in. My dog has passed away. Right here in my lap. But you can get back on the train if you have a layover. They normally have a grassy area for dogs to kind of roam around and, give her a little bit of time to sniff around and be out of harness and do her business and stuff like that. But again, when you're in public, when you're traveling, airport, train station, doesn't matter. They need to stay in vest and they need to stay in harness. You're representing having a good service animal. Which brings me to a whole nother can of worms that I will just briefly tap. This is why it's not good to fake that your dog or pet is a service pet or an emotional support pet if it's not been trained to do that. A lot of people don't realize the severity of if your dog interrupts another dog while it's working and it is trained and has a job. If your dog is barking, if your dog is walking around the train, or God forbid attacks someone on the train or the plane, it's completely inappropriate. And if your dog was not trained, don't go buy a little license online just so you can take your pet everywhere with you. It's not fair to the rest of us who have legitimate service animals that can get distracted and even have to retire because they've had an interaction with a dog that's not fully licensed and certified. So there's only a couple questions that someone can ask you in travel. You do not have to warn the staff on a train or a plane that you're coming with a service animal. That's not required by law, but I do it by courtesy. So I will I will call Amtrak or another train company ahead of time and say, hi, I'm bringing a medium-sized dog with me. I'm blind and I would like assistance, but I do have a service dog. And I just do that out of courtesy and so that they know who I am when I arrive. Also, it keeps you from having to explain yourself a ton when you get there. Also, as far as having a dog on the train, you know, they can only ask you 2 questions. Somebody can ask you, is that a service animal? And obviously I would say yes. And then what service does it provide for you? They cannot ask you what your disability is. They cannot ask you to see a license for them. They cannot ask the dog to perform like a circus dog, like do your thing that you do. With guide dogs, obviously you can really tell what our service is, but with some seizure awareness dogs or diabetes dogs, things like that, some emotional support dogs that have been trained very well, they can't always tell that your dog performs a specific service for you. And just so you know, legally, those are the only questions they can ask you currently. So we had a pretty good train trip. I'll show you some clips.
Alright, here we are on the Amtrak train. We just got settled. We are in the, what you call the handicap row, which means there's a ton of space in front of us. Which means we don't really need it, but Joplin has more leg room. Slash I do, because clearly I need it. Yep, my leg goes so far out. Jobs, what do you think? You exploring? Yeah. Hi. Hi. Good girl. So here we are on the train. We are settling in, and hopefully everything will go smoothly. Hello. So this is where your dog should be on the train. Obviously you can tell she's partly under my chair. She has a lot of room, and there's no one next to me right now. But basically, if necessary, I would tuck her even further under my chair, or I would tuck her under the chair in front of me if I was in the row. The important thing is to remember that they need to be in your seat area that you purchased, and not where everyone else needs to be. Especially not in the aisle and things like that. Their tail, their feet, you know, people gotta go up and down there, so you don't want your dog laying, you know, doing some sort of yoga positions. Also, I've got my little Amtrak app I'm going to pull up. So they're going to check my ticket. So they just checked our train ticket. And if you are a frequent traveler on Amtrak, I suggest you get the app. Give me a second, everyone. I'm going to open my phone and see if I can find Amtrak. It does. Maps. Amtrak. And you open the app. It's fairly accessible with voiceover and modified gestures. And you can log in to Amtrak and it will give you train times, delay alerts. You can purchase tickets and check on the status of your train, and you can actually have your ticket on here and they can scan directly from the app. So I think it's plenty worth it to get the app and Amtrak. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I can do a little tutorial on it. But just as a recommendation, Amtrak app if you're an Amtrak traveler. Joplin's settling in with me. watching all the train situation. And we're headed up north. We're on a train. Stuck outside Main Street Station. And my dog's curled up like a croissant at my feet. Good girl. I don't even know if I'm getting her in the shot right now. She's a little croissant. She's a little croissant. Probably sniffing around. Just waiting for the train to start again. Yes, trains. This train is going so fast. So fast.
So that was our little train adventure. Sometimes I look at the positions of these puppies. I really hope I got this in the camera shot, but she is completely upside down in a U shape. Her back legs completely spread apart like a frog. One arm is completely rigid, straight up in the air. The other one is curled in my lap. And her head is at an angle, creating the other end of the U, completely upside down. And sometimes I look at the dogs and I just go, what is that comfortable? That cannot be comfortable. And they just seem super content to just lie in the weirdest positions. This is not how your dog should lay on a train. So if you guys have any questions about train travel or Amtrak, I'm happy to answer those based on my experience. There are always going to be other humans that you interact with, and just try and take it with a grain of salt. I try and gracefully answer people's questions. If someone's really harassing you, really bothering you, you can always alert an official on the train and ask to be moved, or ask for them to move the person who's bothering you. Don't be afraid to do that. Your safety and your dog's safety and training is what you need to focus on. It's never appropriate for somebody to disrupt your dog's training and their mode of work. A lot of people don't realize that it affects them for the rest of their career. The dogs cannot differentiate between, oh, I'm allowed to have a French fry from this random lady, and oh, I'm allowed to eat a French fry in the middle of a crosswalk. So it affects their training constantly. Again, if you see a service dog, especially when someone's traveling, they're concentrating really hard on making sure that they are safe, their owner is safe, and it's really important that you don't distract. Feel free to admire, and if you have questions or anything, ask the owner, but not the dog. So much like your kids, people will come up and have entire conversations with your baby or entire conversations with your pet and walk away like you're not even there. So try not to do that. It's a little awkward. But Joplin and I say thank you for watching, and please subscribe to these videos. Again, if you have any comments or questions, email or comment below. Give me a thumbs up, and you can subscribe with the little bell. And thank you guys so much for watching Colleen and Joplin's Seeing Eye Dog vlog. She's over this. Toodly oodles!